So we're going to continue trying to get our app published to the store. So we've created the 4 graphic assets we needed, which is our 512 by 512 logo, our feature graphic, and our minimum of 2 screenshots. So we have all these things. So now we're going to use Android Studio to generate the app bundle. So under the build menu, we want to, let me just double check which of these options we want. I think it's, yeah, we want to generate a signed bundle. And we're going to choose the default option, which is Android App Bundle. So it wants a key store path. So you can either create a new one. So I'm going to choose Create New. I already have a folder for key stores on my machine, so I'll just browse to that folder, which is inside of my users directory. I've got a key stores folder. So you can just create this. So I'm going to create a new file here. I'll call it Fire Music F19. And it's got a JKS, I believe it's a Java key store extension. So I'm going to create a new file called firemusicf19.jks. We need a password here. And we should probably put this password down in a file in case we ever need it. So I'm just going to keep the password here. And you need some information that goes on the certificate. So I'll just complete this. I'll make sure I've put the password in a file in case I ever need it, because I'm not likely to remember it otherwise. And when I'm done, I'll click OK. I think the organizational unit is not required. I'll choose Remember Passwords. And it gives me the option, I think it'll default to export the key path to my desktop. So I'll just click Next here. We want to export the encrypted key for enrolling apps in Google Play App Signing. So we may need this file to be uploaded to the Play Store, but I don't think so. Click Next. And now we need to choose, is this a debug or a release? I want to choose release. And then I can finish. Actually, just before I do, I'm just going to go into my folder here. I'm going to go into my application folder. So this is what we've got in here so far. So right now inside of app, I've got build, library, source. When I finish this, it's going to add a release folder, and my bundle, when it's done, will get generated in here. So I'll choose release and finish. So the Gradle build system is compiling our Android app bundle, which we can upload to the Play Store. Ali, were you ever able to complete your registration? Excuse me. So this will take a little bit to run. Once our bundle is done, we can go ahead, create a new application in the Play console. So it tells me, Android Studio says it's generated it successfully, and now I have this release folder, timestamped right now, 9/14, new folder inside of app, and here's my Android app bundle called app-release.aab. So my app file, my bundle's 5.5 megs. It's not too big. Our app is pretty small. So I'm going to go back to my console now. And I'm going to create a new application. So we need a title and a language. So there's a bunch of required. We need both a short and long description. So this is what users will see when they're browsing the Play Store. So we want a good description of what the app is and what it does. So this can be quite lengthy, up to 4,000 characters for the full description. The short description is only 80 characters. And the app name is a max of 50 characters. So if I scroll further down here, well, I can click save to keep what we've done so far. And this is where those image assets are required. So we need our 512 by 512 icon here. So that'll be inside of app. Where are our resources? Let's see. So inside our app, src main resource. Now we've got to find the right sized file. One of these is our 512 by 512. Just not sure which folder it's in. Maybe I'll just go and look in my project under my drawable. That's 432. So that one's not big enough, although we may be able to resize it. Somewhere in here we should have one that's the right size we need, but it's got to be the 512 by 512. These are just getting smaller. Okay, so I'm gonna take this one and I need to resize it. This is the biggest one. I can just edit this with Paint and create one that's 512 by 512. So if I resize this and choose pixels, and I'll just save this. I'll just put it right in the here. That's fine. So now I'll pick that 512 by 512. So it shows me how it'll look here. Now we need our screenshots, and we can also specify the platform. My screenshots are phone, so I'll just browse and upload those 2 screenshots I took of the app earlier. So I've got my main and I've got my list. And you can drag to reorder them if you want. And now we need that feature graphic. Would help if I know where I saved it. No. And I think I uploaded the wrong 2 screenshots here, so I'll remove those and redo those. So here are my 2 screenshots. Here's my banner image. There's other things, other image assets we can put up. So the video, like we saw, for example, the Honk app, you could add a link to a YouTube video here if we wanted to. Not required. We're just going to fill out the things that are required. I'm going to leave out all the optional stuff. Mike? That's a good question. I believe so. We'll finish this screen and then we'll explore. I think, yes, you can. So application type, so it's either an app or a game. So we'll pick application. We can put in a category, so I'll put it in as music and audio. We can tag it if we want. We need to provide an email address, so we may as well use the email address associated with our Google account. If we have a website, we can put it in here. I'm going to say I'm going to check I have no privacy policy right now. I'll just save all those changes. So we've completed everything on here that's required with the exception of the content rating. So again, just to review what is required: title, short and long description, all those things we must fill out. Our 512 by 512 icon, minimum 2 screenshots, max 8 per type, our feature graphic, which we generated with that feature graphic generator, and our little hex to RGB converter. So here's our generator and our converter to make sure we can use the colors. Ben? It doesn't specify the resolution so much as the size. Sorry, here, 1024 by 500 is the size. You may be able to, I'm not sure if you can play around with the resolution here. So you could just create the whole thing as an image if you wanted to. You don't have to use this tool. But there's no option here to change resolution of the image. So we need the application type, category, and an email. And we either need a URL to a privacy policy, or we need to basically opt out of the privacy policy option. And once I've saved that, so save draft is disabled because I have no unsaved changes right now. Now we'll need to deal with the content rating. Mike, I haven't forgot your question. We'll get there. So there's a link here. It says you need to fill a rating questionnaire to apply a rating. So I'll go and do that. And it says, okay, we can't rate it. We want to see your app first. You now need to upload the bundle. So they have some inspection tools that we're going to rate it ourselves, but they're also going to check for content. So it tells us we've got to upload, so I can't complete this yet. So we need to upload. So I'm going to go to my app releases. And this is where we need to decide how we want to release this version. So whether we want it for internal testing, whether you want it on a closed track, or whether you want to just launch the thing in production so anybody can find it in the Play Store and download it. I think what I'll do first is I will create it maybe as a, well, maybe we'll do the closed track. Because you'll need to make sure when you release your app, that at least you invite me so that I can find it and download it and install it, even if it's not ready for production. I know some of you are using your apps in systems projects, so you don't want to publish them and make them public because you're still working on them. So in that case, definitely you'll want to use probably an alpha track, or either alpha or internal. So I'll do a closed alpha track. So I'm going to create an alpha release here. So even though we generated the key store, they've now said, well, let us manage your app signing key through the Play Store. Okay, so we've already generated this key. I'll just continue here. Sure, Play Store, go ahead. And now we can add our bundle. So I'll browse and I'll have to go into my app. So it'll be an app release. Here's my bundle, my AAB file. So I want to pick that file and upload my release. Okay, I thought this might happen. In testing yesterday, I have a test version of the project, but it's got the same package name. So it's not, doesn't want me to upload this bundle. I thought this might happen, but it doesn't allow me to delete my old one. So I'm gonna now see about changing my package name, which may completely destroy my app. We'll see. Okay. Okay, I better do this carefully. Update. How can I do this carefully? I'll do this really carefully. And 1,239 people have wondered the same thing. Oh, this is messy. Bear with me for just a second. Okay, maybe what I'll do is I'll use another app for this with a different package name, just to go through the process. Okay, I'm just going to make a new project, and I'll publish this one. We'll give it a different name. So I'll just make a new package with like a new empty project, and I'll build and deploy this one instead, because it'll have a different package name. Okay, so let's see. I'll go back here. So I can delete this one because it's still in draft mode. So that's okay. I'll go through the process again. Not a big deal. Okay, so here's my app. Different package name. That's okay. I can go through the process again. I'll upload the same graphics. So I'll use the same logo as before, same screenshots. I'll just run through this one more time quickly. Okay, so here's my app. I'll generate a new bundle for this app. So I'll generate a new bundle for this one. We'll try it again. I'll pick release. Okay, so I'll try release again here. We'll go to an alpha track. I'll create a release. I'll let Google manage my app signing as they recommend. And I just need to wait. And now I should be able to upload from my release folder. So now I can drag and drop. So here's my bundle. It defaults to 1.0. And then the release notes go here. These are important. Why are the release notes important? Every time we make a new release, we've got release notes. What's the point of these? Yes, it's part of version control, but think about from the users of our app. Right, every time we make a new release, the new features or the updates are in the release notes. So when people see the app in the store, or their Android OS, their device notifies them, they can see, well, this is what's in this version, so that they know why they might want to install the update. Because not everybody has automatic update turned on. And even if they do, they should see what they're getting in that version. So I'm just going to put in, and this is HTML formatting, so we can add things like bold, italics, bulleted lists in the release notes. So it's asking what's new here. So we should be explaining what's in each version. Kind of like a git commit, but a little more descriptive than a git commit message. So I'll save that. So now I'll go to, if I click on review, we've got some warnings. So it's not released because we created a closed testing track. We haven't specified any testers. So nobody's got access to it yet. So what we want to do here is make sure, so I'm here. So I want to, so my own email address is listed as a tester. It's also not available anywhere. So by default, under country availability for my alpha, it's not available. So it says app should be available in at least one country before it can be made available. So I'll go to this pricing and distribution link. It's also down here. My app is free, and I want to make it available in Canada. So I'll toggle Canada to available and save. So that's down. You can get here, this link in the nav at the bottom left, pricing and distribution. Now there's some other things in here we want to, I think we need to set. Okay. We need to check these things, and we still haven't done our content rating. We got to say the app meets the content guidelines, and we acknowledge it follows US export laws, regardless of whether we're in the US or not. So I'll save those two. We won't be able to publish until we've done that. And now we can look at our content rating. So that's just two options above. So I want to do the content rating questionnaire. So this will send a report to us. So I'll just say it's educational, no violence, no sexual content, no profanity, nothing to do with controlled substances. Does it allow us to interact through voice, text, sharing, or audio? No. Do we use the user's location? No. And do we allow use? I'm just saying no to all of these things. And I'll click save. So it will take Google, may take Google a little bit to generate a content rating. So we've completed it. Generally doesn't take very long for them to generate a rating, usually within a few minutes. Then I'm going to try the link below that says app content. You notice there's a grayed out check mark here. There's one task we have to complete before we roll out. Let us know the target audience of the app and information about the content. This helps make sure that apps that are designed for kids are safe and appropriate. But it's saying, let us know if your app contains ads before we continue. So back under pricing and distribution, if I mouse over this little gray check mark, says we need to declare whether or not the app contains ads. So I'll go back here. Sorry, I must have missed this. Yeah, I did miss. Contains ads? No, this is required. Once I save this, my pricing and distribution should get marked as complete. So now I get a green check mark. I missed this the first time around. So our app is free. We've enabled it in at least one country. We've said it doesn't contain ads. We've said it meets the content and export requirements. So all those things are necessary here. Now, if I go back to app content, we need to fill out information about our target audience. So I'll start this. So it says, if we have target kids under 13, we have to have a privacy policy. I opted out of the privacy policy. Their contents says our rating is teen or higher. That's fine. So we'll just pick. I'll just pick all of these. And then I think we'll click next. So we've declared our target audience as users over 13. That's fine. I'll click next and I'll submit. I don't need to enroll it in the Designed for Families program. So now my app content is complete. Now it says our content rating isn't complete yet. It's in progress. I don't know if there's anything else here I need to do. I think I completed everything. Oh, sorry. So I'll go back. I didn't click this. There's a calculate rating. It doesn't happen automatically. Once you finish the questionnaire, if I hit calculate, here's the rating. So it's rated E for everyone in North America, 3+ in the rest of the world. So I'm going to click apply rating now. So now my rating is applied. And now it wants me to do something else here in the app content. Let's see what it's telling me. Maybe I'll just say, I don't know why it's asking me to do this. Okay, could our store listing unintentionally appeal to children? No. Okay, so now I've got 4 green checks. Mike, I haven't forgotten your question. Okay, I got 5. So we've got our app release, store listing, content rating, everything's done. I think it's in the answer to your question, Mike, I suspect is in this section, device catalog. I think through here, we can specify what devices it's available for. Let's see. So the device catalog allows you to review a catalog of the devices supported by your app and search the devices by their hardware attributes. It allows you to exclude specific devices that are technically incompatible with your app. It shall not be used to prohibit apps from distribution on compatible devices for exclusively strategic business purposes. So it's not around business rules, it's around technical requirements. If I built this for a wearable, I want to make sure someone doesn't try to install it on a tablet if it has to go on a wearable. So by default, here you go, here's your device. So you can pick form factor, and then you can include or exclude specific devices. So I won't use that, but that should be, I think, does this answer your question as to what you were looking for? Okay, good. So now I can go back to my releases. We checked all the boxes, so we need these 5 green check marks. So now it says we have a release in alpha that we haven't rolled out yet. So the app still won't be available to me in the store. So I'm going to go into edit my release now. And now I'll just come down. I filled everything out. I'll click the review button. Now it says the release is ready to be rolled out. So until we went through all those steps, I know I jumped around a little bit. I apologize if I confused you. I didn't mean to. It's not so sequential. We really just have to use these check boxes over on the left side nav to know exactly what things we need to do. So now I have this button here, start my rollout to alpha. So my app will be available to testers only. Do I want to continue? I'll say yes. So now I'm going to go to the Play Store here. And if I search in apps, we'll see if I can find it. Oh, there's lots of them called deploy tests. Let's see if one of them is mine. It won't necessarily be here right away. Just going to go back for a second. I'm going to look for one I've already created. So it'll look something like this. So the Play Store actually shows. So here are some other student apps from last semester from winter that I've installed. So these are on my device. So the Play Store shows me these. Okay, well, I'm going to look on my device in the Play Store, see if I can find it. Sometimes it takes a little while before it's available. It may just be that it's going to take a bit of time. Yep. Yeah, it says they're reviewing it. I've done it in class before. So yeah, it may just take some time. I have been able to do it in class before and have it show up, but I haven't done it with the alpha channel. So I guess it's not going to be available yet. It'll be ready when Google makes it available. And then if I want to publish it so anybody can see it, I'm not going to do that right now, but basically I would go back to my release. I would manage my alpha, and I have the ability, right here I can just release to production. So take it out of my closed alpha, where only invited users have it. If I click on release to production, that's then going to publish it to the Play Store for anybody to install. Actually, my notes here say, now that I recall, that in the past, trying an alpha or beta typically took about a half an hour. So I had students last year who we did it in class, and before the end of class, the app was available. With production, sometimes production's actually been faster. I've published straight to production, and it was available pretty much right away. But obviously, we want to be careful going right to production. That's why we've got the alpha and betas available to us. So it's probably not going to be available during class. One more thing I do want to show you. And that is one thing we haven't talked about. So that's everything on the app end. Those are all the steps. We've got to create the release, create the app in the Play Store, and walk through the content, the pricing, the rating, all of those things. There's one more link on Blackboard I just want to talk about briefly, which is this one, securing our Firestore database. So that'll link you here to the Firestore docs. I'm just going to go, actually, let me go to my console for a second. I'll open up my database. I realize it's almost 10. We're almost done with this process, so just bear with me for a couple more minutes. So here's my database, and we can look at the authentication rules we set up. So if I go into my database, under rules, we get this red warning that our security rules are public. We said all documents are readable and writable here. We get this rules version 2. So what we're going to want to do, we can leave most of this, but we're going to want to change this line. So I want to change this so only an authenticated user can read and write. And you can set this up. So here, I can set it up on a database level, or I could specify by individual collections. So maybe one collection is public, where anonymous users can read from, but let's say another collection, they have to be, or maybe they can be anonymous to read, but they have to be logged in to write. So it can be done either at the whole database level, or it can be for individual collections. So if what we want to do here, so this describes everything. So you can match a particular path. And basically what I want to do is change my read and write rules on our Fire Music database to this one that I've highlighted. That we are allowing read and write if the user is authenticated. So they can be authenticated either with a username and password, or they can be authenticated with a Google account. So I'm going to copy this and rewrite my rule. So instead of my global read and write, I'm only allowing reading and writing if the user's authenticated. So if our request auth.uid isn't null, Mike? No, it's separate. The user store, because the user store, Firebase handles that separately, right? It's not a collection within our database. We have our collection of documents that our app is using. The authentication piece isn't integrated into it, it's separate. It's a different data store, so you don't have to worry. We also have a rule, so this will allow any authenticated user to read and write. So I'm going to publish this. My red warning will go away here. You can also test this under the simulator. So we can run GET requests, for example, specify a path to a collection or specific document, and we can simulate it both as an authenticated or anonymous user. So we can pick the authentication type, whether it's password or Google. And then we can run simulations. So this is useful to help us. There's also a description in here. So this is a general read and write. In many of your apps, though, you'll have data that's attached to a specific user. So, you know, I create my own list of data. Nobody else should be able to see my own list or write to it. They should only be able to read and write to theirs. So in this documentation, it describes more about this. It's in one of these next two links where it types. So here's our basic read and write. If you attach data to a specific user, so this, for example, this is what we did. So this says authenticated users can access the cities collection. However, here, this version, this shows you how a user can only access their own data. So if we attach, if every document has a user ID attached to it when you save it, that they can only write data if they're authenticated, and they can only read, update, and delete documents that match their own user ID. So this will prevent one user from reading or modifying data that belongs to another user. So that sample is in here. That's on this, in this subsection, writing conditions for security rules. And this is how we would basically attach data to a specific user and restrict access to that data so that every user gets their own data and can't access anybody else's. So this link, this is the last link on Blackboard in the lesson 10 folder. So depending on the structure of the app you're building for your assignment, many of you are going to need this, because many of you are allowing users to create their own data that other people can't see. We didn't build the Fire Music Store like this. There's just one collection of data. It's not attached to any user. And any user that logs in can see and modify all the data. But that rule may not work for your app. That's a fairly simple way of doing it. Okay, it's 10 o'clock. Does anybody have any questions for me before I have a question for you guys? Any questions about the release process and publication process? Okay, so it's my turn for a question for you guys. So it's 10 o'clock. We've got two options. We can take a break and we can come back and we can start on, we certainly won't finish it, it's going to take a while. We can start on the implementation of using the camera. Or if you put in a ton of hours on the assignment and you would rather just call it a day and start fresh with that next week, we can do that as well. Up to you. Whatever you'd like to do, we can do. I will put up a quick survey on Blackboard and you can vote in case anyone's too shy to raise their hand about what they want to do. Okay, give me a second. I will stop the video stream now in either case. So bear with me for a minute while I do that. I'm not pushing any